Hey guys, I'm Ray, and we are streaming blacksmithing. Hey guys, welcome. Hello. Hey Corwin, hey Mahalo. Welcome guys. So, today is Monday, and it is the last week in February. I don't know what happened to the month of February. It's kind of just disappeared away from me, and yeah. So today we are borderline. I should not have started streaming out here because it is that cold. Right now it is about 27 degrees, so apologies if the lights start like flickering. They have ignited. They've been ignited for about 30 minutes, so I think that we're good. But I don't know. They might just start blinking randomly. Yeah, the reason we're out here is because I really wanted to finish our ladle, and I just honestly I was too lazy to bring all of the stuff in the basement again. So for one stream, because you know what? By Wednesday, it's supposed to be 60 degrees Fahrenheit here, and yeah, so gonna be a yo-yo kind of week. All right, so today we are going to finish our ladle. So right here, I have two 6-inch discs of metal. This one is steel. It is the, 20 gauge mild sheet steel that we have been making all of our sheet steel stuff with. We made the jingle bells out of this. We made the Mandalorian pauldron out of this. It's the same sheet. So we're very familiar with working with this. The other piece that we are currently looking at using is a piece of copper, and it is the thinnest sheet of copper I have ever worked with. I have no idea how well it will work. I was given this piece by somebody random. I can't even remember who. I think one of my friends. They bought it in the roofing section at like a Home Depot or something like that. So it is a part of like some kind of weird flashing sheet that goes around a chimney, I believe. So that's where this guy came from. It's super thin. So we're going to have a little bit of a competition between these two pieces of metal. I want to use this one. I really want to have a copper ladle bowl. But this is my backup, right? So whichever one of these looks or functions better for what we're trying to do is the one that's going to get riveted onto the handle. So we are going to sink these two using the swage block after we complete finishing up our handle for our ladle. So, yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think? You think one or the other of these is going to look better? I think this one will look better. It'll be a little bit more food safe, but I think this is going to be a little bit more functional. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Yeah. So I'm going to start the forge, even though we have an ad coming up in about 3 minutes, because I am cold as all get out and I need to warm up. Welcome. Any idea the thickness of the copper? I would say it is less than 1 millimeter thick. Like, yeah, it is super duper thin. I have actually worked with 24 gauge metals before, and this is thinner than that. So I'd say, I don't know, maybe like 26 gauge or so. Kind of crazy. One's going to be a ladle, the other's going to be an ice scoop or strainer for ice fishing. Something like that. It's going to be, I don't know, something interesting. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to put this guy in the forge because I need to thin out the end here so that we can get the rivets through. Because we're going to be using our new punch to kind of punch the holes for the rivets. So that's our first thing. And once we've punched 2 holes, because we can't just punch one, otherwise it'll like rotate around the rivet. So once both of those holes are done, we're going to start working on the ladle bowls. Do I have anything that I can use? Is this going to be the easiest, the best one? Probably not. Let me grab a different set eventually, but first, that's going in there. Probably use these guys. And move those out of the way so they don't fall, because you know what? Oh, speaking of falling, I need to reset the drop counter. Hey, look at that. I just mentioned the drop counter and there it goes. Exclamation point, reset, drop. There we go. Ugh. As we've dropped our our hammer as we were in the process of resetting the drop counter. Typical me. Typical me. So cold. I don't normally turn on the heater because it has a tendency to flip the circuit breaker, but we're not going to be using the press today, so I think that we should be all right. I think it's the combination of the press and the heater that really takes it out. So I think that we should be safe, fingers crossed. Unless I'm completely mistaken and it's not the heater at all, it's like the light. I have a 1,000-watt light behind the camera. All right. Woo, I don't like this. All right. So, how was everybody's weekend this weekend? Mine was kind of crazy. The butler worked on Saturday. Normally, the butler has this really cushy job where they work Monday through Friday, and then they usually have Saturday and Sunday off. And I mean, it's like Monday through Friday, like 8 to 5 or whatever, you know? And so it's a really normal, regular sort of job. The weekend was all right, but cold. I mean, it was pretty nice here. It was in the 40s Fahrenheit. But yeah, so occasionally the commercial, like the people who are making the commercials or the advertisements for the station, they'll need the butler to come late. So yeah, last weekend was one of those times. So the butler worked and I worked out here. Kind of cleaning up all of our silverware and the chisels and punches. So we've got the lovely cleaned up silverwares. They're still a little bit dark around the handle, but they feel really nice to touch. And then I also cleaned up the chisels and punches, so we're good to go for those. Glad to see the U.S. hockey game yesterday. Ooh. I heard that they won. So that's always exciting, you know, seeing your favorite team win. I feel like that's kind of an upset. Isn't Canada the hockey Olympic winner? So I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. I think that was kind of an upset, though. So yeah, that's what I did on Saturday, and then all day Sunday I just played video games because it was cold, and I think 40 degrees is cold. But anyway, yeah, I was kind of tired. So I rested all day yesterday, and so I am raring to go except for the cold. Like I said, we're yo-yoing this week, so we're down to 27 degrees Fahrenheit. I can kind of see my breath. But by Wednesday, it's supposed to be up to 60 Fahrenheit again. So, you know, like sweatshirt to t-shirt weather. And I'm kind of not looking forward to that because that tends to mess with my lungs. So yeah, big upset. See, that's what I thought, you know. But I did see that they had won. There was like a little news blip headline that I saw earlier. So yeah, that was kind of my weekend. Anybody else have anything exciting happen? We hadn't gotten gold since 1980. Ooh, that is a long time. You know? What, 40 some years? 46 years, I guess? That's kind of crazy. It's like, I don't know, like the Bears or, you know, the Cubs, they like never win, you know, in Chicago. I don't know. Growing up, everybody in the area I grew up in were Cubs fans, and now I'm down in St. Louis, and so everybody's Cardinals fans. So we've actually won the World Series a few times recently since I've been here, living here in the past 10 years. Yeah, it's a lifetime. That was before my time too, Corwin. I wasn't born until 1986. So 6 years before I was born. That also means that this year I turned 40, and I don't know how I feel about that, guys. That's a lovely reminder. A lovely reminder, but that's all right. I kind of feel like 40 isn't all that old anymore. When I was a kid, 40 was super duper old, but now that I've gotten here, I don't know. I still feel like a kid. All right, so we've got plenty of heat on our steel, so I think I'm going to do a first heat. So let me go over here, and I've got our first angle is going to be a little bit different than I normally go, because I normally am like, let's go on right behind the main camera, but this time, you know, we're going to be different. I'll be 45. See, like I said, I don't really feel like 40, 45. I don't think that's that old anymore, you know? All right, so that's a good start. I'm gonna thin that out a little bit further because we're gonna use our brand new punch. So I need to make sure that this guy is gonna go through there twice without ripping anything and very comfortably. So I think right now it's all right, but I wanna thin it out just a hair more, maybe make it a little longer. Because the whole handle is a little bit on the short side. You know what else? I think I accidentally turned it 90 degrees, so I don't know. Maybe we'll do some twists at the end. Decorate the handle a little more, and I can decide like where I want the bowl and the loop. 40 is no problem. You can still put a whooping on those whippersnappers. Right? Like I said, I still kind of feel like a kid, and I don't know if that's because I'm a millennial or if that's because, you know, everybody always feels like a kid, you know? I just feel like there's a lot of experiences that I've never had, and then there's also just a lot of like those life milestones that I never managed, you know? Some of them I did, not all of them though, you know? We never had kids. I never got a big girl job. I mean, I guess technically I did work at the jewelry store, and that's a big girl job, but you know. I don't know. Maybe this is a big girl. I doubt this would be considered an adult sort of job. Content creator, you know? But yeah. don't know. This is a big girl job. Okay. Okay. I mean, technically, the rest of, like, the stuff that I do that is not on camera, I mean, even the stuff I do on camera, I could take that someplace else and I could make some decent money at it. I am self-employed. I still am not making any, or like, I'm still not making money. Like, I did all of the calculations for my taxes, right? Because when we first started, we knew we wanted to grow this content creation business as a business. So I did incorporate and create an LLC. So in order to do that, I have to, like, you know, save all my receipts and save all of my Twitch payment information and all of the stuff that I've gotten from KoFi, from your donations, anything that I've made in ad revenue and things like that. So we've added, or I've been compiling everything together, and we're still a little bit in the red because we took a few trips and those were kind of expensive. So I mean, we're doing a lot better than I thought we would do, but you know, they say that a new business doesn't really start making money for the first couple of years. So first 5 usually. So I think we're still pretty well on track, you know? So, I mean, I don't know. I guess it is kind of a big girl job. It doesn't really feel like it though. You know what I forgot? I forgot to fill myself a water. All right, I'm going to go and I'm going to grab a Gatorade real fast because I didn't spend the time. I'm not going to spend the time to fill up my water. Give me half a second. I apologize for that. That was a boneheaded thing to do. Goodness gracious. Oh, and there's not even a cold one. That's all right, though, because it's cold as all get out outside. As long as it's not warm. I have this weird habit where I can drink things. I can drink things at room temperature, but warm, I think. I don't, unless it's like tea or coffee, something you're supposed to drink hot. Yeah, there's lots of asset investment. Yes, there are. It's so weird thinking about content creation in that way, you know? It's not just like, you know, the little hobby thing you do with like your cell phone and stuff. So it is hot chocolate weather, and that's what I should have gotten. I should have made myself some like hot tea or something. I don't do a lot of hot chocolate because the best hot chocolate is made with milk instead of water, right? And I'm lactose intolerant, so it's kind of like I gotta be in the mood for hot chocolate, but in the mood enough to take a pill to drink the hot chocolate. So, I think that this is going to take the entirety of our stream, right? Like the little bits and pieces to finish this ladle. That is the plan, is to, you know, take the entire stream, the 2.5 hours. But if we get done early, I will probably end up going in the house because, like I said, it's super cold out here. And I don't know. I love being out here, and I would not miss our stream for the world. But, you know, it's cold. Some days it's a little hard to get started, you know? All right. Let's do another heat. And I promise it's not just because then I can cuddle with the forge. All right. Goodness gracious, I'm about to drop things again. I gotta say, I absolutely adore this hammer. All right. All right, so we've got it really close to exactly where I want this to be. It is going to move a little bit when we use our punches on it. So originally, when I planned this particular piece, I was planning on kind of pinching in between where the two holes were going to be, the attachment holes, and kind of create like more of a figure eight kind of view on that. But I'm not entirely sure if I want to do that yet. I'm going to take another heat. I'm going to think about it. And we shall see if I decide to pinch in the corners. I might just forget about it because that's the kind of person I am too, you know? Apple cider for the lactose intolerant. I mean, you know, there is some really good apple cider that you can get a hold of around the Midwest area. It's less common in the, you know, late winter and springtime than it is in the fall. There's some kind of like apple cider that has, I don't know, like some cream in it or something like that. I don't know. I had it on like a hay rack ride and like pumpkin picking, pumpkin patch kind of experience thing. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it just seemed like really creamy for some reason. And of course, you know, there's the pumpkin spice everything. I'm not a big pumpkin spice fan for other things besides pumpkin pie. I love pumpkin pie, but not like the stuff that you get out of the can either. Like you got the canned pumpkin pie filling. I like real pumpkin puree for my pumpkin pies. My mom, what she does, she buys the pumpkins and she cuts them up and boils them and mashes them just like mashed potatoes, and then she'll bag them up and freeze it. And she bags up individually in pie-sized bags. So she gets these huge pumpkins, and we can eat pumpkin breads and pies all year from like one really big pumpkin. Pumpkin bread is my addiction. It's so good. I love pumpkin bread. I also love banana bread. I don't know why I don't make them myself. I should, but I always end up waiting for my mom to make it, and I hardly ever get to see my mom, so, you know, I should just learn to make it myself. My mom is always eager to send me her recipes. I was looking for a recipe for, I think it was lasagna, like several years ago, and she sent me her recipe. I ended up modifying it, so I combined my mom's lasagna recipe with the recipe from one of the restaurants I used to work at, Emo's Pizza. They had this amazing lasagna, so I smushed them together, and it's some great lasagna. Sweet potato bread is also amazing. See, I've never had sweet potato bread. I would imagine that it tastes amazing as well. I mean, sweet potatoes don't taste that different from pumpkin, from pumpkin. So I imagine it'd be really good, you know? I don't know. So, yeah, it's definitely time to make some bread, you know? Whether that's just bread or, you know, a pumpkin banana sweet potato bread. I think it's definitely time to make some bread. For a while, the butler and I were making bread on the weekends, like for just regular bread, not like sourdough or anything, just like a leaven rising bread, and making that for instead of buying like garlic bread loaves, so that we could make garlic bread, and that was amazing. But we kind of stopped doing that. Cinnamon rolls. Ooh. Jimmy John's day old bread. Yes, I used to get Jimmy John's day old bread all the time. When I worked at Emo's Pizza, there was a Jimmy John's across the street, and so for our lunch break, we'd send one of the employees out to Jimmy John's, get us all loaves of day old bread, and then we'd use the Emo's ingredients on the Jimmy John's bread. Yeah, 50 cents a loaf. It was back then too. I don't know. I think the local Jimmy John's raised their price to like 95 cents a loaf. I can't remember, but I think that's the last I saw. All right. I'm going to move the camera over just because I've had a couple of heats with that angle. And we're going to do another angle just for some variety. You can kind of see on the close-up cam from this angle that the oil that we were using for tempering the other day, it kind of spilled down the front side of the anvil. It's not bad or anything. It's actually good for the anvil. But you can definitely see like the drips. All right. I am going to attempt to do this. But if I'm going to make the attempt, I need a different hammer. Maybe this one. And I've kind of probably wasted all my time. You know what? I'm going to heat this up again. Apologies for my lack of planning. I think I was, yeah. Like I said, apologies for my lack of planning. What I was planning on doing there was using a cross-peed hammer and hammering directly on the corner of the anvil to kind of pinch in the center of the section I thinned out for the rivets. Well, I think what I want to do is actually just use the corner. I think I'm going to use the regular hammer and hammer one side, then flip it, hammer the other side. I think that's probably going to be the best thing or way to go. So that's what we're going to try next time. I don't know, Jimmy John's did that. I should check it out. Yeah, anytime Jimmy John's does not sell all of the bread loaves that they make for the day, because they make their bread loaves for their sandwiches daily. So if you've got a restaurant that kind of had a slow day the previous day, there's always like rolled up bread loaves in their special paper. And if they have them, you can buy them. And they are still amazing. It's starting to warm up a little bit in here. My fingers aren't quite as cold. So that's good. Between the forge and the heater, I think it might get a little bit more comfy in here. All right. Now let's try this. Hey, Rabbit Scotsman. I am having fun today. Having fun, solving some problems, and making some decisions. All right, so I'm going to put that there. And then I'm going to hammer it there, and I'm going to check it. Hammer. Okay, so now we have a nice divot there. So we're going to fold it exactly around and check it. And that looks pretty nice. I think I'm going to take another heat. Like I said, I'm kind of like fullering these two together. I want to kind of create like little rounds so that when they expand from the punch, it kind of gives us a little bit of, I don't know, a direction for it to expand. More heat. I don't know what it is, but today my brain just seems a little bit sharper. I feel like I'm saying a lot less, but I also feel like I know what I'm trying to say and I can get it out a little bit more direct. I don't know what it is. Maybe I had a little bit of extra caffeine today. A little pep for my step. It could also be the cold, you know, the cold, it gives me something to kind of focus on. I have a little bit of ADHD going on. And so if I don't have enough things to kind of occupy my brain, it just kind of starts wandering off into like the distance and I have to go and catch it. And sometimes it makes it very hard for me to come up with things to talk about. Yeah. So, like I said, I played a few video games last night or yesterday. One of my favorite things to do in video games, because I normally I play MMOs, and MMOs are massive multiplayer online games like World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy 14, things like that with lots and lots of players. And one of my favorite things to do is play D&D within the game world. And so I play this game called Elder Scrolls Online, and they have a housing system that makes it really easy to create like my own sets and maps for my dungeon adventures. So I did a lot of that yesterday. I kind of just started back into that game, and I found a group that we can kind of RP in, so that's pretty cool. We are making a Western style adventure. All right, so we've got an ad starting in about 2 minutes, so I think I'm going to take one more heat. We'll see if I can't beat the ad. Okay, so we've pinched that in, so now there is a little bit of direction for the material to stretch as we use the punch in there. So I think I'm going to compare to the punch that we're going to use. Where did I move that to? I moved it over here. So that looks pretty nice, and we'll put one right there. All right. There is a little bit of an indent here, but not quite as much as on this side. So I might take one more heat for that, and then we'll start punching. Punching. So once I start punching this piece, it'll be the moment of truth to see if I made my punch well enough. I don't know. We'll see. I think it looks all right, but there might be just a hair bend in it. We'll see how well it works. Oh, you know what? Here's another thing that I can think about today. So this right here is a piece of stock that I've started making rivets out of. So it's a little bit thinner than this punch. So I think it'll still be okay. If we cut them a little bit longer, we can kind of upset them into the hole. It's getting a lot warmer in here, but it's still cold enough to be uncomfortable. Yeah. Yes, rivets. Rivets. Gotta get that frog. Maybe that I should make a rivet frog for an emote. That would be fun. And then you guys can post the emote with the frog and every time I do rivets. Because we do rivets relatively frequently. Rivet. All right, so we are in the middle of an ad, and by the time the ad is over, we should have plenty of heat to kind of, man, I just said that my brain was sharp today, and here I go, like, losing the plot. We're gonna take one more heat to kind of even out the divots that I'm putting in the edges to denote where those rivets are going. It'll be like one of the really quick heats. And then after that, we will start punching the rivet holes. I am super excited to start working on the bowls because I'm curious how the really thin copper is going to act. It is super duper thin. I've never worked with something quite that thin. So there's always a chance that it's going to create some kind of spectacular error. So there's always a chance with something that thin that it's going to start rippling and it's going to fold and or rip or crack. And so I'm really curious to see how it works. And not like works as in how does it work? Because I don't know. I mean, how does it work? Like, how does it feel when I'm hammering it? And there's kind of a difference between not knowing how things are going to work at all and knowing how they should work, but not knowing exactly how it's going to move, I guess. All right. So the ad is over. So let's do our heat. I'd be afraid of cracks too, right? Like I said, this piece of copper is, I don't know, I swear it's like 26 gauge or something like that. It's like super, super thin. Probably the thinnest stock I've ever worked with before. Well, you know what? Now I'm going to have to go back on this side. Goodness gracious. It's just going to keep going back and forth now, isn't it? All right, I guess that's probably good enough. I'll mess with it a little bit more as we continue working on the punch. Hopefully I can make it work. If not, I don't know. We'll figure it out. All right. Checking my frame rates because I've got some instability according to the Twitch. Looks like I've dropped a few frames, but I don't think that I've had full freezes yet. Let me know if I do. They are not working on the street actively today, but they have been working on the street. Although right now what they're doing, because like I told you there's construction down the street, and they've got it down to one lane of traffic. Normally it's just a two-way main drag in my town, and so they've got it down to one lane. So during rush hour, there's backups in front of the house, and it's kind of crazy. Anyway, so what they're actually doing, because I've I've driven down there a couple times. So what they're doing is there's an overpass because there's a highway that runs that direction and kind of behind here. It's like a curve. Anyway, so there is a walking path over the overpass, and they are redoing the railing and like the little chain fence that keeps people from, because they don't want people to fall over the side of the overpass. So they're redoing the chain link fence, or at least that's what they're doing right now. They also scraped up the top surface, so I think they're doing that as well at the same time. All right. So this should be long enough that I don't have to worry about it. But we shall see. This is my punch that came from my Harbor Freight set. It's a little bit longer. This is like the fat one. So I still think it's going to work pretty well. You should ask if you can have the old railing. I should. Like I said, I don't think they're actively working over there right now, but I don't think I saw in time. So there's a big section that they've already gotten rid of, and it's like that galvanized chain link fence stuff. So it's not that good. It's just like the only thing that's really useful for me would be like the top rail, and it's kind of hollow. It's like a galvanized pipe. So I don't know. I mean, I could come up with something to do with it, but I think it would take some effort to get the galvanization off. All right. So like I said, on this next heat, what we're going to do is we are going to do a little bit of punching. My fullering isn't quite where I want it to be, but I will correct that later on, I think. I hope. And if not, I guess I can just grind it. Maybe. I don't know. I'm going to change the view of the camera. I'm going to go right in front of the anvil because I think that's going to be a really good angle for you guys. And we're going to go real low so that you guys can actually see. All right, is that... Let me get down here so I can actually see to focus it. Okay, that should be good. Ooh, that's a really good camera angle. I like that one. Except for that, I have no idea where I'm going to put my inset. I don't know. Okay, so there's that, and let's see if I can't put the inset right there. I think that should be all right. I'm making up new angles as we go. You know what? This is going to make me happy, except for it's not. It's going to be a very droppy attempt, I think. Oh no! I don't know what I'm doing, guys. We're going to start down here for reasons. And it's too cold. I've waited way too long to kind of figure out what I'm doing. And I'm dropping things. That's all right. That's all right. Ugh. Goodness gracious. Okay, so I'm having a little bit of an issue, right? Because I need my, okay, so my issue is that the plate on my anvil is broken, right? So I have this weird little, like, step. And ordinarily, I would just be able to put the piece, like, just straight up on the edge of the anvil. And I could do whatever I needed to, right? But now that I have this step, I kind of have to put things at an angle. And so it makes it a little bit more challenging to keep the piece on the anvil. So I don't know. Ideas. I have a few. If it comes to that, I know how I can take care of this. If it comes to it and I can't get this next heat, if I can't get it to punch, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to punch it on the swage block, because we're going to be using the swage block anyway for working with the sheet steel and sinking those. So, like I said, I think that's the way to go. Could you repair it if you had the material? Yes, I could repair the top of this anvil, and a lot of people have repaired these anvils, because this is a hay button anvil. It's a 127-pound one, and it's the year that it was made. There a lot of them parts of the plate, the top plate, broke off. So it's kind of a manufacturing flaw for the entire run of anvils that year. And there are a lot of people who have repaired them. The way to go about that, though, is to heat the entire anvil and the plate up to the temperature of your welding bead, right? Because you are welding a piece of tool steel onto a piece of wrought iron, because this is a wrought iron based anvil. And in order to make sure that the wrought iron stays affixed to the bead, it has to be the same temperature, which also means that I would have to temper and harden and temper the top of the anvil and like the whole thing. So that's why I haven't really bothered, right? Because it is so much effort to properly repair it, and if I don't properly repair it, it'll just break more, and I just don't want to risk it. So I inconvenience myself probably twice a year, so I don't ruin my anvil. All right, let's attempt this again. We're gonna make a second attempt. Fingers crossed I can figure this out. I have another idea. I'm going to stick this guy there, and hopefully it doesn't fall off. Stick that there. Then we're not going to drop it, because that's not what we're going to do today. We're not going to drop things. Except we're already dropping things, guys. We're already dropping things. All right. We've got a little bit of a ghosting of the punch that we've used. It looks like I've got it a little bit close to this edge as opposed to that edge. So I need to straighten that out. And that's why I always start really slowly so that I can move the punch if I need to. That worked a lot better. Okay, cool. So my main issue right now is that the loop on the back end is kind of preventing me from sticking it flat. So I think if we have any more trouble, what we're gonna do is we're gonna flip it around. We're gonna twist the loop, and then we're gonna keep on keeping on. Hey Bluesy, welcome to the stream. Welcome, welcome. Punch seems to be doing all right though. Yep. So yeah, we've got 2 holes to punch. So fingers crossed we get those done in a timely fashion so that we can start working on our bowls for this ladle. They're not perfect circles. I did the best I could with the guillotine shear, but it's always a little bit of a challenge to get a perfect circle. I also have yet to, I don't know, maybe I should do that now. I haven't actually filed these guys. So when you use a guillotine, or I mean a Beverly shear, I said guillotine, I meant Beverly. Beverly shears are different than guillotine shears. Guillotine shears work very much like a guillotine where the blade goes straight down, whereas a Beverly shear is kind of like a giant scissors. That's the difference. But both of them kind of leave like a sharp edge. So a lot of people will file the edges so they don't cut themselves while they're doing this. So let's do that real fast. We can just do it real fast. It doesn't need to be too bad. Most of the flashing and the sharpness will actually come off as scale, so I'm not terribly worried about it on this one. Now the other one, which is the copper piece, I don't have a file that's small enough to file this because the grits, not the grits. What is the word I'm looking for? The tines, the teeth on the file are thicker. They're further apart than the thickness of this guy. So I think we're just gonna let it be. Maybe we'll use some sandpaper after we've already made it divoted. We'll see. We shall see. Like I said, I'm thinking that we're probably going to end up using the steel piece because I think it's going to come out a lot cleaner and a lot more usable than the piece of copper, which I think is going to crack. We are either going to accidentally fold it and cause it to crack, or it's just going to crack because it's really thin and an errant hammer blow is going to crack it. That's my prediction. That's my prediction. Okay, let's try this again. Okay. You know what? You know what? Pain in the butt. That's what. Haha. All right, fine. You have spoken, piece of steel. All right, so what we're going to do is we are going to flip this around. So, okay, my problem is this, right? The leaf that I have put on this piece of this handle is 90 degrees from where I squished it because I'm not, I don't plan very well. And so it's making it really difficult for this to sit flat on the face of the anvil. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to heat up this side and kind of wrap it around the steel. We'll be able to unwrap it again later. But for the moment, yeah. That's what we're going to do. Yay! 3-stream streak! That is amazing. Thank you so much, Bluesy, for your support. We love having you. I would streak through the smithy, but I like my skin. I don't know that it would be today. It would not be the forge that you'd have the problem with streaking through the smithy. It would be that it's super duper cold. It's like below freezing in here. The only reason that I'm not down in the basement shop, in the the small shop, is because I really want to get this piece done and start a new piece. So I am freezing my little toesies off, and we're going to finish this piece. There are no problems, just problem-tunities. Exactly. Also, most of the problems that I encounter, we end up learning from them, and stuff that we would have never learned if we hadn't screwed something up or, encountered a problem. Must you use the lower part of your anvil to strike on, or could the leaf be on the lower and strike on the higher part? Ordinarily, I would tell you yes. However, the high spot on my anvil is a little bit too short to do that with. So we will be using it in that fashion when we get to the part where we are punching the slug out, right? But yeah, it's not quite long enough yet, or right now. And the balance is just a little bit awkward. Yes, it would be unstable. Exactly. Hey, my negative 20 Celsius is doable. I spent time in Sweden and went to many a sauna. I regularly frolicked outside in the snow naked, and yes, it's very refreshing. See, I mean, I am not from from north enough to have that kind of tolerance to cold. I feel like those of you who are living in Northern Europe, in Northern Russia, like Siberia, and those who live in like Canada and Alaska, you guys are a different breed. I live in Sweden. I'm with Ray. Cool is just in your head. I mean, to an extent, right? Until you get to the point where it starts to become a medical danger, when you start like your appendages start going black. I promise that's not my appendages I got a blood blister yesterday, or no, 2 days ago, when I was changing the bench grinder from the wire wheel to the stone and back. So I pinched myself between the nut and the threading. Yeah, it's a blood blister. They're so irritating. It would be fine if it wasn't bumped up. Once you get hypothermia, the cold will literally be in your head. I mean, yeah. I heard that when you start to go hypothermic, that you start to... There's this weird phenomena where you end up starting to undress. I heard that is one of the ways that you can die up on Mount Everest, because you start getting too cold and then you just start stripping. Yes, you get a warm feeling. We're trying not to do that today. I'm cuddling with my forge. You get extremely disoriented. Yes. All right. We are going to do another heat. But first, I'm going to check my camera. We're all right. Cool. Just making sure I only got 30 minutes on any one angle. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of hammer this down like so. And so now it's a little bit more wrapped. So it should work a tiny bit better like so. If we can stick it on there just like that. So we are good to go. I am going to put this back in the heat so that we can heat that up and continue punching it. when we're done with this punch, what I'll do is I'll bend the leaf a little bit outward so it kind of creates more of an organic look. Evening Sandwich, welcome to the stream. We have been problem solving already today. So we are currently working on the handle for our ladle. So we are working on punching holes to rivet on the bowl of the ladle. So my problem is that when I flattened it out, the little section for the rivets, I flattened them 90 degrees from the loop that we made on Friday. So I'm having trouble setting it flatly on the anvil face. So we just corrected that problem. We should be good to go, and it should go a lot faster now. We are making a ladle. Right now we're working on the handle. And I have 2 6-inch discs of metal that we're going to create the bowl from, right? So I've got this section right here of 20 gauge steel. This is the mild steel that we have been using for our jingle bells, for the Mandalorian pauldron, etc. It's the exact same steel, right? From the same sheet even. So this one right here is a 6-inch disc of copper. This thing is super duper thin. It's like less than 1 millimeter thick. And I want the bowl to be copper because I think it'll be a little tiny bit more food safe than steel. Because steel, you'll have to season it and keep seasoning it, whereas copper, I mean, yes, you don't want to use it all the time because copper poisoning, but like it's, you know, Moscow Mule, it'll work for the most part. But this is so thin, I'm afraid that it's going to rip on me. So whichever one comes out better is what we're going to rivet to the handle. Hey, Jedi Jeb. I haven't been here in a while, but once you start making a ladle, does anyone make a Patrick Star ladle joke? Well, not yet, but now they have. Had to look up quickly what a ladle is. It's a quille to scoop things up. Yeah, it's for like serving soup or gravy or that sort of thing. So it's another kitchen utensil. We did our kitchen fork, like skewer. We did our spatula and our tongs. So now we're going to do a ladle. Soup and kale. Something like that. Something like that. All right. So we've got an ad that's going to start in about 1 minute 30 seconds. And once that ad is over with, that's about 3 minutes from now, we should have plenty of heat to continue working on punching our ladle handle. So right now, like I said, we are working on punching holes to slot rivets in so that we can get the bowl of the ladle onto the handle. We need to do 2 holes because if we only punched 1, then the ladle bowl would just like rotate around the handle. So we're going to do 2 holes, punch into the handle so that it's nice and securely on the handle. No soup for you. Yes. See, I've never actually watched Seinfeld, but I remember, you know, I am aware that the no soup for you is a meme, like the episode with the soup Nazi. But I feel like I don't quite, you know, because I haven't watched Seinfeld, I don't get the full breadth of the joke, I feel like. Just the meme section of it, I think. I'm going to pull that out a little bit. The tip isn't quite getting as hot because it's kind of missing the hot spot in the forge. So if I pull it out just a little bit, it will get hotter where I want it. Unfortunately, my forge has some hot and cold spots in there because I built it to be a 2-burner forge, but I only ended up putting 1 burner in it. And I don't even know why. I think I just forgot. I forgot that I designed it for 2 burners, knew I only had 1 burner, and I just stuck it in. I think if I wanted to correct that, what I would have to do would be to put 2 more burners in. And at that point, then I could probably, I would definitely need a bigger tank for propane. But I think I could almost put like shutoff valves so that I only have to turn on 1, 2, or 3 burners. And I think that would make my forge a little bit more customizable. But I also feel like I'm not ready to upgrade my propane tank. I don't know. Maybe sometime in the future. I also am very much of the opinion that next time I need a new forge, it's gonna be one that I purchase. I don't want to build another forge. Unless something untoward happens to this forge, I don't want to build another one. All right, let me check my camera. I think we're gonna do a little bit of moving of the camera. It's not too big of a movement, but just a little bit of interest. There we go. All right. Sunrise already over there. Nah, Ray is starting her new forge. Yeah, that's totally how it's going to be, you know? It's going to be a huge forge, and we're going to be able to forge weld in it. It's going to be awesome. That's going to be my new forge. I'm not, or like, you know, when I can no longer use this forge. My next forge, when I'm forced to get another one or when I want to upgrade it. I think I want a chili forge. If they're still around by then, I want a chili forge. They are amazing forges, and they are specifically designed for making pattern welded steel. All right, let's do this. All right, I'm going to heat this up one more time, and then I shouldn't have to pick up the punch every time. I should just be able to start hammering directly on it. But we are now deep enough that it shouldn't move around on us. So, yeah. It's going to take us however many heats it takes us. We're going to do 2 holes, and then we're going to start, or I'm going to drag the swage block over, and we'll make those bowls. So when I first started raising silversmithing, we used to use 6-inch discs, very similar to this. And we get these little bowls about yay big around and about yay deep. And I think that's exactly the size that I'm looking for. So I think what we're going to do, instead of using the raising stakes, we're going to start with the swage block and see what we can get shape-wise. And then if I can't get the right shape, we'll probably come back over to the post vise and we'll grab one of our raising stakes and we'll use that, along with the lovely raising hammer that Knott's hubby made me. So I'm using some lovely custom hammers today. Mark Ling made this one, and if we use the raising hammer, Knott's Smithy, or Knott's, that's wrong. John Brunel made that one for me. Is the chili forge open at the back? Seems counterintuitive. I know nothing about forges. So chili forges they usually have they're usually oval shaped, so they're about yay big oval, and then they have like little rectangular openings in both the front and the back. Knott's hubby, yes. I try, but then I don't know what it is, but I get to the knots part and then it just like my brain does not want to function. That is not your fault by any means. That's my own issue. Apologies. You would think that by now I would get it right, but you know. But yes, Knott's hubby. All right, yes. Made this lovely hammer for me. Knott's hubby did. And he's been streaming as John Brunel on Sundays on YouTube. Yesterday, I think you're still working on your nail header, right? I saw the notification for it this morning. Unfortunately, I was not available during the stream. I wish I could, so I will have to watch after the fact, the VOD. All right, let's do another heat. I finished it. Ooh, awesome. Did you start a new project or did you finish it just in time? That's usually what I do, is if I finish my project like just in time so I don't get to start anything new. Set it down. There it goes. All right. More heat. We're getting there. You can kind of see how deep it's getting. It's a little bit wide. But yeah. Hopefully we can get this done in the next like 20 to 30 minutes. That would make me a very happy camper. Oh, does Knott's have a Markling hammer as well? It's really, the one I have is really nice. I like it a lot. Yeah, mine's about 2.5 pounds as well. It seems it's a really nice hammer. It's got good balance, and yeah, the only thing is that I wish I had another one that was a cross peen. People keep telling me that, I can do anything with my rounding hammer that I can do with my cross peen, and I just really like cross peens. It's comfy, and I don't know, I just like using them. I love the round hammer, but yeah, I also like a cross peen. We have a Curie raid. Thank you so much. Welcome, guys. Hello. Welcome to the stream. Hello, hello. So I'm Ray. I stream blacksmithing, or I guess I am a blacksmith, one or the other, right? So today what we are doing is we are working on making a ladle. So right now we are punching rivet holes in the handle, and we made the handle on Friday. So once we're finished with our rivet holes, we will be taking 2 discs of metal. This one is a 20 gauge piece of sheet steel, and it's 6 inches in width, or I guess in diameter. And then I also have a 6-inch disc of copper. This is actually thinner than a millimeter. And so I'm pretty sure that this is going to end up ripping. Now, I would rather have a copper bowl for my ladle, but not if it's a ripped copper bowl. So I have to kind of see which of these is going to function better. This is kind of a backup to this one. I would love it to be copper, but yeah, anneal frequently. Yes. So I tend to anneal it. I'll just throw it in the forge for a couple, like a minute or so and pull it out. It usually works pretty well in the forge. Not as well as if I was actually using a raising hammer and a raising techniques and full silversmithing, but it can work in a forge with blacksmithing techniques as well. It's just not quite as good. So yeah, we will be riveting one or the other of these discs onto the handle. Any predictions? Will I rip the copper disc? Will I fold it in some weird way that I can't unfold it? I don't know. I would say I'm taking bets, but you know what? I think that's against terms of service. So I'm not taking bets, but I am taking predictions. What do you guys think? I'm not bad at raising and sinking, but I think this one's just a little bit too thin. Quenching helps with copper, actually. Freezes the grain structure in smaller particles, makes it a bit more workable. Yes, it does. You will be making a fancy, high-quality RBC ladle. RCB. RCB. I can read today. What does RCB stand for? It actually isn't against TOS. There's a prediction from Twitch. Oh. Well, I guess I did see that there was a prediction thingy, but I don't know that I have that one active. I have a copper bowl made of 2 millimeter. Oh, see, 2 millimeter is relatively thin, but this is just a little bit, it's not designed for silversmithing in mind. What this is actually for, it's designed to seal I got it from this roll, and it was for sealing a chimney, like a watertight seal on the edge of a chimney. So someone gave this to me for free, so I'm attempting to make something with it. So I don't know, it might work, it might not, it probably won't. How did the punches go? I mean, I'm using one of the punches right now. They actually went pretty well. But yes, thank you all for joining me. Let's do another heat. Ha! I caught it. I didn't drop it. I caught it. So probably 26 to 30 gauge, pretty thin. I have a bunch of that stuff in the basement. Yes, exactly. I'm used to using an 18 gauge sheet. The smallest I've ever really used specifically for doing raising and sinking is a 20 gauge. So that's what I'm used to using. I am relatively familiar with, you know, silversmithing techniques and things like that. But in this case, we're not quite using them. All right. Drop. Somebody hit the drop. Okay. For our next heat, what we're going to do is we're going to flip this over. We're going to start from the back and kind of maybe probably over here, over the pritchel hole to see if we can't pop that, the plug out from the back. This may be a challenge though, so we shall see if I don't drop more things. I like dropping things. And I cannot lie. Actually, it's not that I like it. It's just that I do it a lot. Kumai or Mokumegane fodder? Yeah, it would be relatively decent for Mokume. If I were to stack it with, normally when I make Mokume, I will stack red brass with copper. And that's how I made my wedding bands. For my partner and I, the butler. And I wrapped them in sterling silver. So don't drop too much. I try not to drop things, but it always happens. It never fails. I'll drop something. Like last Friday, I was dropping, well, I spent all day last Friday until the last 15 minutes and I hadn't dropped anything the entire stream. And then in the last like 15 minutes, I think I dropped like, I don't know, 4 or 5 things all in a row. It was awful. Maybe I should give myself like some kind of ultimatum, you know. If I go an entire stream without dropping something, then, you know, something happens. What do you guys think? What should I do if I go an entire stream without dropping something? If the counter remains 0. And remember, when you are on fire, stop, drop, and roll. I tend not to do that, actually, now that I think about it. I have been on fire several times in my life, and I have never stopped, dropped, and rolled. What I tend to do is I tend to smack the fire. Yes, you could just hit it as well. That it's a valid way of putting out a fire. So yes, I have a tendency to smack the fire. But usually when I set myself on fire, I've been welding, and so I have welding gloves on. So I'm not smacking a fire with my bare hand. Gatorade dump like at the end of a football game. I don't know about that. That would be sticky and icky. We'd have to do that at the very end of the stream, and then I'd have to immediately jump in the shower. Ew. All right, let's do another heat. Let's see what we can do to get rid of the plug. Wait, you know what? Before I do that, we're going to change angles again on the camera because that angle does not have an adequate view of the pritchel hole. So here we go. You can now see the pritchel hole. Okay. That should be good. Alrighty. That was a deliberate drop, guys. All right. This thing is a little bit too small for my pritchel hole, so I think we're going to flip it. And I'm just going to, okay, so you can actually see that it's punching through or poking through when I used it backwards, or I guess when I went through this direction, it kind of pushed it back through. So for our next heat, we're going to use the pritchel hole to get it all the way out. So yeah, I don't know. Does it count if I deliberately dropped the tongs? That'll be your celebration when Gatorade finally sponsors me. That's probably where it would be. That looks impossible. What looks impossible? I don't know. At least you should announce that it was on purpose in advance, not afterwards. You're right. You're right. But yeah, when I dropped the tongs so that I could pick up the hammer. So there's this technique when you are forge welding where you set one piece on the face of your anvil, you set the other one down, you drop the tongs, and then you pick up the hammer and you forge weld them together. And that's kind of, that's how you get things going faster, I guess. So that was the goal there. Didn't really work amazingly well. Because I didn't inform you guys that that's what I was going to do, right? So maybe it does count for, the drop counter. All right. So I'm pretty glad so I made this punch on stream. I don't know if it was last week or if it was the week before, but I chamfered the back end so that it didn't mushroom out as much, and it's been working beautifully. It's a Monday. It is a Monday, man. It is a Monday. Definitely a Monday. There were 376 drops in the stream. 56 out of that was all purpose. Maybe. Although if I dropped 376 items in a single stream, I don't think I get anything done. I think I'd just be sitting here picking things up and immediately dropping them. That is a lot of drops for a single stream. All right. Let's see if I can't get this to work. All right, so that's probably going to drop. Okay. Did it go all the way through? Nope. It kind of wrapped around in a weird way. All right, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to attempt to dislodge my punch. That was horrible. Look at that. I screwed that up big time. Let's see if I can't fix that with the next heat. I mean, look at that. That's awful. All right. Blah. It's a great way to drop things, guys. That's a great way to drop things. Apologies. I forgot to hit the button. Goodness. At one of our local meetings, the demo was drop tong welding. I did mine and then twisted the bar with the twist in the middle. That is impressive. That is one of the fastest and easiest ways to wreck a forge weld is to twist it. So I am clearly impressed that you were able to twist your forge weld without it popping apart. But then I am like, I am completely and totally useless at forge welding, clearly. We've only really been able to do, what, I think 2 forge welds while we've been streaming. So, completely doable when sewn steady. Dropping things. So yeah, we're gonna have to correct the weird twist that we got. So yeah, I think, I think what we're gonna do is we are going to bring the swage block over. I've been threatening to do this all day. Look at all these lovelies. So this right here, I have a handful of lovely items. So we recently did a fork, knife, and spoon. Where's our spoon? This one. So we did a fork, knife, and spoon. We did that last week. Fork, knife, and spoon. And then that was a technique checkup because a year ago we made these guys, this fork and spoon. And then before that we made a flat punch, a square punch, the round punch we're using, and this curved chisel. So this is all of the stuff that's currently in my hands. And I'm going to stick that over there. One of these days, I'll make you up a billet and send it to you to weld up and make something out of. Ooh, that would be fun. However, like I am planning on doing some forge welding and some pattern welded steel sometime this summer. So, I mean, if you want to make me up a billet, I'll totally use it on stream and we'll make something out of it. But whether you send me one or not, I'm going to try it. I have some 1080 and 15 and 20. Ooh, that'd make a really nice, bright, different pattern. You know, the 1080 makes a really black. All right, I'm going to grab the swage block because this is going to make things a little bit easier for me, I think. But this also means that we're going to have to refocus the camera. So I'm going to do that while the ad break is going on. And that should be starting in about a minute. So we're going to come and bring this a little bit closer over here. And I want to bring you... Okay, so that's the hole that we're going to be using. And it looks like it's in focus here. Okay. As long as it doesn't get too much closer to the forge, we're safe. We are safe. Okay. So what we're going to do, instead of using my Pritchell hole to get the plug out, we're going to be using the... there is a divot in this swage block. And we should be able to get rid of it there. Fingers crossed that it works the way I think it will. Oh yeah, I think we have to fix the twist. I'll do that before I switch cameras, because I don't think I can do it on the swage block. Maybe I can. I'll see if I can. So once the ad ends, we will fix the swage block and see if we can't pop the plug out of this piece. But I mean, we're going to be using the swage block anyway for our pieces of steel. Or I guess for the bowls, for our ladles. I can speak. I know what I'm talking about. Maybe. I have a horsehair like broom, and I can't remember what I did with it. There's a bunch of scale inside my swage block I was going to sweep out, but I don't know what I did with it. Where is my horsehair brush? I don't know. I don't know. What is this swage block made from? I'm going to wait about 30 seconds to answer that question, because that's when the timer says the ads are going to be over. So yeah, in about 30 seconds, I will answer that question. Alrighty. That's forever. It is forever. I'm making people wait, you know. You gotta wait. All right. So the question was, what is the swage block made from? So this particular swage block is made from cast iron. Most swage blocks are made from a cast iron. So oftentimes swage blocks, like I said, cast iron, but an anvil, the old ones are made from two pieces. There is the base of the anvil, the feet and the horn, and that is usually wrought iron, which is basically iron, like pure iron that has been folded and copper, or not copper. Why did I say copper when I meant to say carbon? Is added to kind of give it a little bit more stretch, a little bit more ease of use, I guess. And then there is a tool steel plate that is forge welded on top of the wrought iron base. So yeah, that's what it's made of. Okay, let's attempt this. Can I fix my stuff? That'll work right there. Fix it, fix it. Can I fix it? I don't know. It started to rip, so that's my main issue, right? It started to rip. Oh, come on, stay. What is burning? Something's burning. I don't know what it is. You know what? I'm going to get more heat. And I am going to figure out what is smoking. It smells like hair. You know, I am willing to bet what was burning is oftentimes I lose hair and I get hairs just that, like little individual hairs that just hang off of me. So I'm willing to bet that one of my hairs fell onto the piece. And that's what that smell is. Because it wasn't me. I'm not on fire. Fingers crossed I can actually make this happen, guys. Things are not working out as well as I wanted them to. I mean, this is taking forever. So I think it's probably going to take another day to get this finished. Buffer. Oh, is there a buffer? Yeah, we're getting a lot of frame drops. Apologies. What is happening? Okay, well, it popped right back up. I don't know. I don't know why it dropped. I really don't know why it dropped. Apologies. It seems like it's back up. Fingers crossed it stays steady. Okay. Let's see if I can't, let me check to make sure that we're not, okay, we are at high frame rate again, or I guess high bit. So I think we're okay. Much better. Okay, cool. Let's do another heat while we've got it, or while I've got you. No, Ray. No. No pickup barehanded. Shh. Goodness gracious. I'm not doing so hot, guys. Apologies. You know what? You know what is going to happen? We are going to cut off this section here. We're going to flatten out a little bit more. And we're going to start from scratch, guys. Apologies. I ripped it apart, guys. I ripped it apart. I was expecting a catastrophic failure today. I just was not expecting that catastrophic failure. My expectations were for the catastrophic failure to come in the form of ripping apart our the piece of copper. And instead, I'm ripping apart the piece of steel. So, you know, things are happening today. It is a Monday. So it's going to take me another day to finish this, ladle. It's looking like, unfortunately, I am not going to be able to get the, there it went. The discs all the way done. We might be able to get one done, but we won't be able to get both done. So I'm going to start with this one. We'll see what happens, and then we'll on Wednesday, if we don't, or if this one fails, we'll do this one. All right. You know what? I'm going to put it this direction. So we're going to put that there. So right here, I have the hot cut. So what we're going to do is we are going to cut the little extra tabby that I've ripped apart off of here. And then we are going to thin out a little another section. So I think I'm going to put that over there. We're going to move this over here so that we have a better view of the anvil face. And I can get to it a little bit better. Okay. Let's try this. This should be a lot easier and a lot better. Did I do that? I didn't hit the button right. That's all right. We are working the problem, working the problem. There it went. Put that away because we no longer need it. So I'm going to heat this up. We're going to thin out another small section and kind of lengthen it out a little bit in an attempt to regain some of the length that we would have gotten on this handle. We are problem solving today. Go to Lowe's or Menards and get a 1.25-inch copper coupling or a short piece of pipe, and you'll have thick enough copper for the bowl. You had told me that on Friday, and I was gonna do that, but I didn't have time to do it today. Would it be cheating to make the tip really, really flat and thin and punch the hole and then forge the material back around the punch as a mandrel sort of thing? I apologize for the hesitation. I'm trying to wrap my brain around an answer. Okay, so you can always thin out a piece of metal, right? And it's a lot harder to make it thicker, if that makes sense, right? So if I make the tip really, really flat and thin and punch the hole, it would make it a lot harder to thicken out the material again. And I need the material to be thick enough that it's going to hold fast for the rivet. And that is also the reason why I think that the copper disc that I have is not going to work, because I think that the copper disc is going to rip right out of the rivet. So in theory, I could use the punch as a mandrel to upset the steel into a thicker I could use the punch as a mandrel to thicken up the material around the hole. However, it would be incredibly difficult to do without rolling the steel. So it is a lot better and a lot easier to just start again, cut it off and start again. So I hope that answers why I'm not going to do it that way. Okay, let's do a little bit of thinning, or, fix the problem a little bit. It's not that it wouldn't be cheating, it's that I am not a skilled enough blacksmith to do something like that, and I'm not entirely sure that, yeah. All right. So once again, we have a relatively longer piece of thick sheet. That makes the handle a little bit on the shorter side. And, I've seen some ladles with shorter handles. I think it's all right. All right. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to make a second attempt on punching this. Okay, got it. How thin could a piece be before it bends instead of smushes? That is an incredibly relative answer, right? So it's going to depend on the angle of the hammer blow. It's going to depend on how hot the material is. It's going to depend on the skill and accuracy of the smith. So it's just, there's a lot of variables that I can't really give you a definitive answer for that. So I apologize. I will say that I'm having a lot of issue with the thickness of material that I have right now. I started with a 1/4 inch square bar, and we have squished it in about half. So it's a little more than an 1/8 inch thick, where we're trying to punch the hole, if that gives you any idea. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I could have, or it started rolling on me because I was attempting to push the hole out of, or the plug into a hole that was too big, so it started bending and it ripped. So that's what happened there. I will be using the swage block to punch the plug out of the hole, soon, when I get to that far. And I also am very much aware that this would be a lot easier if I decided I was just going to drill the hole instead of punching it. But the reason that we are punching the hole instead of drilling it is because I just made a new punch. So I'm kind of testing the waters with that new punch. I am also okay. So by using a punch, I am moving the material out of the way as opposed to losing the material like I would if I drilled the hole. So not quite the same, but it works. You get holes both ways. All right. So I now have the ability to use this punch again. It would be easier to buy a ladle too, but that's not the point. Yes, very much so. Very much so. Right. Drops. Add drops. Okay. Don't you just love the smell of burned jeans in the morning? It hit me in the pant leg. Okay. Okay. Back in the forge we go. We've got a decent indentation where that punch mark was, so we will be able to use that in general for a while. So, like I said, part of the reason that I am doing this project by punching it is to kind of test out my new punch. And I am actually learning a bit about this punch. And I am learning that it is not a perfect circle. So when I ground it, I must have nicked it because there's a little bit of a raised area. So I think I am gonna need to cut off the tip. So I will probably attempt to use the angle grinder to cut off the tip to smooth it out. And I'll probably do that after the stream because, yeah, that's going to take a little bit of extra time just to make it precise. And I think it's going to take a couple attempts. And while I don't mind looking like I don't know what I'm doing on stream, there is a point to that. If in doubt, smooth it out. Yes, exactly. That is exactly my mindset here, is that I just need to smooth it out. All right, let's do another heat. I think we're hot enough. Probably. All right. More heat. So you can definitely see a ghosting of where that punch has started. And I'm kind of moving it back and forth so the light kind of reflects off of it. And you can kind of see it a little better. Looks like my anvil is a little on the darker side today. I don't know. It looks fine in the regular camera, but it looks a lot darker on the stream. So I don't know what's going on. Maybe for the piece, the mailbox would be more effective as it is hotter. Yes, very much so. I made a conscious choice today to use the big forge instead of the mailbox, knowing that it would be more efficient for me to use the mailbox to do the punching work, and then move to the big forge when I got to the point where I'm working with the discs. But the reason I chose to remain with the big forge is because it's freezing, and the big forge lets out a lot more ambient heat, and it would keep me warmer. So comfort versus efficiency in this case, and that's probably a bad decision on my part, but you know. I see. Yeah. Well, okay. So it is. When I first came out here, it was 27 degrees Fahrenheit. So probably I don't know, -3 or 4, somewhere in there Celsius. And so I was cold. It was to the point where it was borderline whether I was going to be able to stream out here or if I had to move the stream into the silversmithing shop today. And so I chose to come out here because I wanted to finish this ladle today. Clearly, I'm not going to anyway, so it's all right. I made the wrong decision all around, I think, but that's all right. That's all right. You'll live and you'll learn, you know? All right, let's try again. A little bit, a little bit. I've made this decision, this wrong decision before. I'm also not waiting long enough, I think. More heat. We're being a little bouncy today. All right. All right. So I was able to turn up the forge, the pressure on the forge. So it should be a little bit hotter in there. But yeah, I've made this mistake before, you know, many times. I know that it's a mistake when I do this, you know, use the big forge when I should be using the mailbox. But, you know, I like being warm. Okay. I'm going to bring the swage block back. I'd be paranoid about carbon dioxide poisoning from using a propane forge indoors. So I have a window cracked over here, and I have the door cracked over there. And there is a crack there's a door to the outside on the other side of here that is also cracked. So I have cross ventilation going, and so I have oxygen or enough for both me and the forge. For the amount of time that I'm out here anyway. So, yes. And we also have carbon monoxide detectors out here. So, you know, if I was having issues, you would hear the noise. And I just open the door or the garage door, or I'd crack the window a little better. Okay, that's good. Yeah. Yeah. So I learned real early to, you know, make sure that there's lots of ventilation in areas that I'm forging. Yes, carbon monoxide is the greater danger. Yes. Okay, we've got an ad that's going to start in about 2.5 minutes or so. So let's see if I can't do a couple of, or another heat. There we go. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I have lots of ventilation in the shop deliberately because I do a lot of work out here in the winter and during the summer, and I need to be able to breathe. All right, so I'm gonna put this back in the forge. We're gonna get some more heat, and then we're gonna come back over to the swage block. Okay. And I'm gonna move the camera once again. I don't know what it is, but I was totally able to punch the holes for the trivets so much faster than this. Not entirely sure why. They went fine. Today I'm just not doing as well. Some days you do and some days you don't, you know? And unfortunately today I'm not doing the greatest. My brain feels sharp when it comes to like talking and stuff for the most part, but I'm having a lot more issue manipulating the steel. So I don't know, maybe too much of my brain is talking and not enough is forging. So once the ad is over, I will do my next heat. It'll be here on the swage block, and it's going to be working towards getting the plug out from the piece of steel. Is the tip of the punch holding up? It actually is relatively well, considering, right? So I made this out of spring steel, and I have softened it a little bit because when I got it stuck in there, it kind of took the temper off. So I need to harden it and temper it again. But it's not too bad, to be quite honest. It'll hold up a lot better than the punches that I make out of mild steel, regardless. But like I said, there's also like I tipped it with the angle or with the grinder when I went to surface it. So yeah, this is probably why it does not work properly. It isn't springy yet. Yeah, it isn't spring yet. It's like still winter time. I blame the groundhog. I was gonna say, do you guys in Europe have something that's similar to the groundhog? In New York, they've got Puxadilly Phil, I think his name is. And they, every year on, what is it, like January something or February something, they look at this animal and yeah, it's like if it sees its shadow, then there's going to be 6 more weeks of winter. Do you guys have something like that? Or is that just a weird American thing? Because to be quite honest, it just sounds like a weird American thing to me. I've never been like super into Groundhog Day. It's always been weird to me. All right, so we've got a little bit of a thing going there. It's sticking out a little bit, so it didn't rip through. So we'll have to figure out a way to get that through. And that might just be the Pritchell hole. So I'm going to heat this up and we're going to try it again. Groundhog Day was very famous here as a movie, but this is where I know it from, right? Yeah, Groundhog Day was a movie, but I think the reason it's called Groundhog Day is because it takes place on Groundhog Day. But yeah, it's just a weird thing. So it's like, I don't know, this weird tradition. Do you guys have any weird spring traditions? So what we're going to do on Wednesday is we are going to, yeah, it was a fun movie. We are going to work on the bowl for this ladle. And then we are going to punch the other hole for this rivet. I think it's going to take me a little bit of extra time to get this one through. Oh, Farmer's Almanac. Yeah. So I know about the Farmer's Almanac, but like every day has some predictive power. I'm sure it does. So the thing about the Farmer's Almanac here is that this year, what is the last edition that they're going to publish? So you can't, next year they're not going to publish a Farmer's Almanac. So I'm not sure if that means it's all going to be online and you're going to be able to look it up, what the Farmer's Almanac would have said, or if they're just not going to do it anymore. But I kind of feel like if they aren't doing it online, then yeah, what will farmers do? It's, it's a thing. I don't know. Maybe we'll have to ask Bluesy. What will farmers do next year when the Farmer's Almanac doesn't get published? Let's do another heat. They're going to talk to their 22-year-old agronomist. Ooh. There is like college degrees on farming these days. That you can get. All right, there it went. There it went. So check that out. We got a hole. It's exactly what I wanted to see. A hole. What happened to the plug? It was in there and then it fell out. So I don't know what happened to it. All right. Super sighting. I think we're going to start the next hole. Oh, I already hit the button, didn't I? I already hit the button. Press the button. The parody is the nice rhyme. When the rooster crows during the dung heap, the weather will change or stay the same. I see. That is a strange phrase. I don't think I would have come up with something like that. So why did that go better than the first time? So the reason it went better than the first time is because okay, so I used the Pritchell hole to try and push the plug out the other side, right? Well, the Pritchell hole is about the size of, I don't know, like about this size, right? Well, the hole that I'm trying to, or the plug I'm trying to punch out is about this size, right? So the whole end of the handle fit through the Pritchell hole, so it ended up bending and the whole thing cracked. And I thought I could fix it. I thought I could just weld it apart or on and stuff. And that was going to be on the inside, touching the bowl, so it wasn't going to be visible. So that is why it went horrible the first time. This time, I used the swage block to punch the hole out, right? Now, the swage block has a rivet header that is around the same size as the rivets that I normally use for these types of projects, right? So it was the correct size to push the plug through. Does that make sense? I was being lazy, and I used something that a bigger tool than I needed, and it screwed up. That's what I thought. Looked impossible. So you need an infinite number of different sized holes. Yes, you do. All those farmers' rules are rhymes, and obviously mostly only true by coincidence. This one is kind of a parody. Sounds nice, rhymes in German, and doesn't make any actual statement. I suppose that's true. I kind of feel like farmers, they observe things, right? And so when they see stuff, it's kind of like they can kind of relatively accurately predict things. Like, I was watching a TikTok earlier today about how it is actually possible to smell a tornado before it comes. And they were explaining that you can smell the petrichor, that petrichor smell, you know, the fresh after the rain scent. You can actually smell that before a tornado starts. And because it occurs. So if you smell it, even on a bright sunny day without a cloud in the sky, you know that there's a possibility of poor weather. And things like that are kind of collected as old wives' tales and in like farmers' almanacs and stuff. And it's not 100% accurate, but it's a educated guess, kind of. Something like that. Alrighty. Do I want to do the next one on the swage block? Maybe. Maybe. Let's try, or let's start the next hole. We're going to start this direction. And I think I'm going to go right there, like so. Then I'm going to look at this, and I'm going to punch right there. So I'm picking up the punch and correcting it if it moves each time for these initial hammer blows until I got a good solid hole started and the punch doesn't shimmy around. So you can kind of see we've got the hole and then I've got the next one started right there. There's a true collective wisdom to a lot of almanac stuff, but yeah, some is based on lore and not science. Very much so. Solid hole. God, I mean, it's still solid, right? It's not all the way through yet, so it's still solid. All right, so I think I'm gonna try and finish this hole and then I will raid off. On Wednesday, we'll work on the bowls. There are rules around the ice saints some days in May on which, according to these rules, the last freezing temperatures are expected. That was important to guess to know when to sow. Yeah, it is. Because if you sow too late, then your grain or corn or whatever it is that you're growing isn't going to reach full maturity before fall starts. Adjacent to a black hole. Yeah. But is a black hole more of a solid hole? Because, I mean, aren't black holes, like, super dense? That's the whole point of a black hole. They just absorb all of that matter and become super dense gravity wells. All right, let's do another heat. Correct. Oops. That wasn't good. I shimmied myself into one of those bigger holes. So let's correct that. All right. So we've got a pretty deep hole in there. That's not bad. So 1 or 2 more heats, and I think I should be good to go on that. No dropping. I got it. I got it. All right. My monitor says that I'm buffering, but my OBS says that I'm not buffering. I should go to bed, but want to see the riveting conclusion to this whole thing. Yeah, I think it's only going to take me a couple of heats more. However, if you need to sleep, I mean, you can always watch the VOD later. I post them on YouTube, and then they're also here on the channel. A lot has changed since last time I was here, which is good. Yeah, I've been trying very much to improve the stream, improve my presentation, the camera angles, my skill. Looks okay right now. That's good. I'm glad. I have been having a little bit of internet issues, but I really think it has something to do with the road construction that's happening on my street, unfortunately. Hopefully, they get it done fast. But yeah, I'm trying very hard to improve the stream and the YouTube channel. So I'm glad to see that, you know, people are noticing. It shows. Awesome. Like I said, I'm glad when people notice. So I'm working hard to make this stream high quality and enjoyable to watch. All right, let's do another heat. All right, one more heat here on the regular face, and then we're going to start working on trying to get the plug out, I think. All right. Let's flip this over. And I'm sticking this in a weird area because I've got a strange type of thing that I'm going with. I knew that was going to happen. That's what I was trying to prevent. But that's all right. We can deal. All right. So we're going to heat this up. We're going to come from the back side and probably over there with the other hole to see if I can't push the steel plug out. Okie doke. Hopefully it'll work. See, the problem is if something happens, or if the same thing happens to the hole that I'm currently working on that happened to the first hole, then the whole project I'm gonna have to like cut it apart and start again, and it's gonna be a giant mess. So fingers crossed I get this hole the first time and pretty decently. Or that it goes smoothly. So for Friday's stream, Friday's stream, yeah, we will be doing a new project because I can't imagine the Ladle will take another another 4th stream, if that makes sense. So hopefully we'll be able to get this done on Wednesday. Okay. One more heat. No, 2 more heats. This is probably going to take me 2 more heats. I know I said 1 more heat or 2 more heats last time, but yeah. So we're going to do this like so. Okay, one more heat, we should be able to push this plug out. Fingers crossed. It might take two, but you know, I'm trying. I'm really trying. I gotta not count my heats because it takes as many heats as it's gonna take. It takes as many as it's gonna take. Oh, I'm out of Gatorade, so you know what? It better take less than, or you know, 2 heats or less. Does it work to make the hole progressively larger with a series of punches, or would the material fold in once there is a smaller hole? Okay, so the beauty of doing punches and drifts, drift is another type of punch. So I have a drift. I had a drift. Here it is. Okay, so this is a really old, ugly drift, so don't judge. But, so this is a punch. It's just a normal, everyday, you know, it tapers a little bit. It's got a straight hole, right? Well, this is a drift, right? So it starts as a chisel on this end right here. And then it expands as it goes down. This tool is designed to go all the way through a hole, right? So the widest bit, and then it tapers back down so that it can fall all the way through, right? So you can use these to get progressively larger, and as long as you have material to stretch, you can make as big a hole as you want. Now, if you want to make a really, really big hole, I would suggest kind of using a chisel to kind of cut the hole open, and then kind of, you know, like a zipper. Then using progressively larger drifts, because then you'll get enough thickness that you'll get whatever size hole you want. But yes, you can use drifts to open holes bigger than the width of the bar that you're working with, if you know what you're doing. Okay, another heat. The one time I got shown this method of making the hole, my master smith essentially did it on a flat surface to bang it until he reached the bottom, so it made a sound, and then flipped it to break. But yeah, thickness does matter for sure. Yeah, I've never been amazingly good at doing holes. I'm probably, you know, there are probably a million methods that are better than this one, but this is the one that I learned, and the one that I've done for many, you know, as long as I've been smithing. So, not saying it's the only way, nor is it the right way for you. It's just the way that occasionally works for me. Tends to work for me. That might actually even be a better way to say. All right, one more heat, we should be able to pop that out. I am also terrible. I think I've only done it a couple times, but with everything, it comes with practice. I agree. Practice makes perfect. Unless you're practicing the wrong way over and over again. I also have not been able to make it in one go. I have not either. I've done it in a lot less times, or a lot less heats in the past, but this time I don't know. I made this punch, right? I made it last week, and this is the first couple of holes that I've made with it. And this is the first time I've ever made a punch. Every time I've used a punch, I've just bought them. So I don't think I made it amazingly well. There's like a little, I nicked it with the grinder when I was trying to clean it up and flatten it out. So I need to kind of correct it. All right, let's do, fingers crossed, hopefully my last heat. Hopefully. Oh, look at that. It's almost out. It's almost out. There's even a hole in it. Goodness gracious. I'll get it out next heat. I promise this time. We'll get it out next heat. So what's the benefit of a punch over a drift? Removing material instead of displacing it. A drift allows you to move or displace more of the material than a punch would, right? A punch, you're basically squishing the material thinner and thinner while moving some of it towards the outside, and then you lose a little bit of material. With a drift, you start with a chisel, so you're actually kind of cutting a slit that you are then opening, so you get more material for your money. Whereas if you're drilling, you lose all of the material because you are boring a hole in there. So it's kind of how much material do you want to lose? Hey Jack, welcome to the stream. You are very good at explaining. I try very hard to be good at explaining because you know what? I gotta have a gimmick, you know? Alex Steele is funny and he's very intelligent and stuff, but you know, he doesn't always, or like he kind of stopped explaining things after his first couple of years, right? He just more shows things now. You know, some of the other guys, they explain things, but not quite as detailed. So I try to explain things as best as I can, and that as my gimmick. Alex Steele, he is a relatively well-known YouTube blacksmith. She is, and since she's nice to keep answering my questions, I keep asking them. That's my favorite thing to do is answer questions. You know, that's why I stream, is to answer people's questions and to bring or shed light onto blacksmithing as a craft. Yeah, a YouTube blacksmith. He is from England? Somewhere, not London. Knowledge is yay. Yeah, I have a lot of head knowledge. My practical knowledge is a little lacking. I can't take a blacksmith called Steele seriously. I mean, he says in his Ask Me Anything question, or like question and answer video, that it's just a coincidence, but I don't know. So in an inverse universe, you shed darkness on whitesmithing. Yes. Yes. In an alternate universe, I try and hide silversmiths. If a baker is called a baker, you should take them seriously. I mean, that is true, because baker as a last name, it means that they've been a baker for like generations. I mean, not all the generations maybe, but they have baking in their ancestry. It's in their blood. Whitesmithing is tin. I mean, you could. I mean, tinsmithing is white. You know, I've heard it as both tinsmithing and silversmithing. So take your pick. All right, I'm gonna do another heat. Agree. Yeah, so I'm not gonna argue either way. You know, I think both is right here and there. I actually used tin and copper to learn silversmithing. So, you know, I'm gonna say it could be either. You know what? I claimed that it was coming out. And you know what? Is it coming out? I don't know. It is coming out. Look at that. That's the end of my drift. Or, I mean, my punch. There it went. And that's another drop. Okay, so we now have 2 holes. I kind of got to clean this one up a little bit. The plug is kind of to the side, so I need to kind of grind that out. But yeah, we have 2 holes, and we're going to be able to rivet this handle onto the bowl. So yeah, that's all she wrote for the day, I think, folks. All right. There used to be a quarterback at Iowa State named Steele Jantz, and my 1095 powder and 1084 bars are from Jantz Steele. Awesome. How many Smiths are Smiths? There are a lot of different Smiths. Well, if all Smiths were Smiths, you would have a whole lot more competition. Yes. Okay. So I think we're going to raid off. I have updated my outro, but I'm awful at updating it, so I took out the section thanking you guys, so I will have to individually thank you guys on the stream, because I'm so bad at thanking you guys individually on the updated outro. So all right, thank you guys so much for joining me today. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you on Wednesday. Is there anybody, let's see, who is around? All right. Let's go with Miramac. I wanted to raid them on Friday, but they were away from the keys. So we'll raid them today. See you Monday, or yeah. See you, Ray. Thanks. Good job knocking out that Monday. Yes, I try. Thank you guys so much. Have a great rest of your day. Bye, guys.